years we heard nothing of George Romero. It was almost as if in those 20 years nothing really happened. In the 90s you had the remake of Night of the Living Dead, done by Tom Savini. In 2004 you had the remake of Dawn of the Dead. And then in 2005 we had a newer instalment, not a remake this time, a brand new film, George A. Romero's Land of the Dead. Now this one I thought it blew me off my feet. It was amazing. It was a great new one. I know people saying it was bad. It wasn't bad. I liked it. I thought it was a really good film. In this film, a group of humans are just trying to survive, and they're surviving in this huge tank thing called Dead Reckoning. And they're just driving from town to town, collecting stuff, and then taking it back to the city to sell to earn a living. And there's this one city that is inhabitable because it's surrounded by water on all sides, and they broke a bridge. And there's walls on all sides, so the zombies can't get in on those sides, and got electric fencing, so no zombies can get in on that side. And the other side of the city is in water, landlocked. So, and they live this existence, like a normal existence, living normal lives. But little do they know that these people who have just gone out have attracted the attention of zombies, and the zombies are now back with a vengeance. Zombies now get angry. There's one zombie I think they call Big Daddy in the movie. This big black zombie who works at a gas station before he got infected. And he leads all the other zombies into the city, and they attack it, invade it. And it's actually quite funny. Some bits of it, there's done with comedy, little bits of comedy, and the gore effects are astounding. I can't remember the guy's name who did the special effects. Greg Nicotero. Brilliant special effects. I mean, I loved it. He was just as good as Tom Savini, and I'm not joking. I thought it was brilliant. So if you want to see this film, check it out. It's my third favourite after Day of the Dead and Dawn of the Dead. But after that comes Land of the Dead. Seriously, check this one out. I loved it. Check it out, and if you have seen it, tell me what you thought of it. Then 2 years later, in 2007, George Romero made another one, Diary of the Dead. Now, to be honest, this one was a bit of a disappointment, but in my opinion, I didn't think it was a bad movie. It was fairly good at points. It was done with this style of filming that was done for the Blair Witch Project, Cannibal Holocaust, Cloverfield. All that style of filming, it uses that style of filming, so the handheld camcorder mode of filming. It certainly carries a bit of suspense in it, but apparently people did start feeling motion sickness in scenes. Basically, it follows this group of teenagers and their a bunch of film students and their professor. And they're out shooting something in the woods, and then the zombie attacks start happening, and they try and get back to their loved ones, and they think, well, we can go to this girl's house. So they go to this girl's house, and they get her, and they go to this girl's house, and her parents are zombies, so they go to another house in the middle of the woods, and basically they're just trying to survive. It's not a bad film. I will say there's one thing that did steal the limelight, and there was this Amish guy who ends up fighting the zombies and ends up having a stick of dynamite in his barn and throwing it, and then holding up a thing saying, hello, my name is Sam, I'm Amish. It was so funny. And another one that was quite funny was this: when they were in the hospital, they go to a hospital, and there's this guy, and he's like carrying all this stuff, and they're like, what are you doing here? I'm stealing stuff, what are you doing here? Security! And then he runs off. And it was so funny. I thought it was quite funny. That was great, that guy. Those two guys sort of stole the limelight away from our actual actors, but the only problem with this is that they used a lot of CG gore, and in scenes it wasn't really that good. So I say you can watch this film, but it's not as best as brilliant as some of the others in the series, and not as brilliant as other zombie films. But check it out if you want to. The dead will walk the earth, and the living won't have a breath. Now this film is based off the next line of films we'll be doing are based on a very successful game franchise. And this is Resident Evil. This is the first Resident Evil. And I have to say, it was a good movie. I mean, very game orientated though. There's a lot of music in it, and it looked very game-like. You know, they probably could have done better, because they used CG gore for a lot of scenes, and it didn't make it look so good. But I will say that basically the story is about this group of people. A woman named Alice wakes up and she can't remember anything, and then she gets taken down into the lower levels of this base by this team, and she finds out that she was actually working for the people who were working down there, and their special biohazard team that have been released to contain something that's gone, because the whole base went offline. And then they find out that it was the work of the pharmaceutical company Umbrella, and they created something known as the T-virus. Which was originally created to heal people, but then found it had huge biological weapon properties, and anyone who gets infected ends up being killed by the virus, and then the virus brings them back to life, so they're the undead, so they're zombies. It was a fairly good story. And I think it was one of the good ones. By the way, if you're wondering why I'm speeding up, it's because I've already got about 2 videos and about 5 minutes out of this video, so I've got to be as quick as possible. So I'll be doing these quite quick. So check out Resident Evil if you want to. Then 2 years after Resident Evil came out, we had Resident Evil Apocalypse. This was my favourite one. This was more based on a game. I haven't really played the games, but this was cool. It had the enemy nemesis in it, who was created by when one of the lickers bit this guy, who's actually in the first Resident Evil, and it turns him into this mutant thing, which they end up calling Nemesis. He becomes like a big zombie, but he's like battle. Like they can control him. And he's sent in to destroy Mila Jovovich's character, Alice. It's a really cool thing. What happened in this is that basically the virus, the T-virus, has escaped into Raccoon City and is turning all the people in the city into zombies. Really good film, quite good gore effects. Check it out. Then in 2007 we had Resident Evil Extinction, the third in the series. And this was a good one. This was basically after the apocalypse has happened and the world's turned to desert, seeing as the T-virus killed all forms of life. Anything that got infected got turned into dust or a zombie. You know? I will say something about Resident Evil films. They had the first zombie animals I've seen. The first zombie animals, which were zombie dogs, and I've never seen zombie animals before, but they were cool. And they also had zombie crows in this one. Really good film. Basically they're trying to survive out in the desert, and then they find there's this military base that's under the ground that's trying to bring the zombies be more humanoid. So check that one out, and it will be good. It's a good film. Sorry I'm having to go so fast, but I have to have the video done.